Hey guys, today we're going to remake Caramel by Sleep Token and it's going to sound like this. We have a lot to unpack in this video, there's so much going on in the production, so let's explore how this band pulls all of this off, from the insane genre blending to the brutal guitar sounds to the tricks you may not be picking up on that are crucial to the Sleep Token sound. So let's dive into all of it today. But before we do, if you want to see my entire process of making a track from start to finish, go check out my new Modern Metal Pro course. It'll teach you everything you need to know, nothing left behind the scenes, so that you are fully prepared to take your own music and make it sound pro. But with that being said, let's jump in. And we of course want to start off with that beautiful sound we hear at the start. Kind of reminds me of one of those little music box things. Like a very beautiful but slightly unsettling sound, which is definitely the vibe the band were going for. So the key is F minor, let's lay it down and then we'll break down the sound. Now, I absolutely love this sound. It's so vulnerable, so fragile, such a nice way to start this song. And to me, this sounds kind of like a hybrid of a bunch of pitched percussion like xylophones, marimbas, vibraphones. For example, let's just load up a xylophone in Cubase. It's like it's kind of got the sound, but it's not 100% there. Let's try a vibraphone. Same thing again, it's close, but it's not 100% there. We kind of want a hybrid sound, so for that I'm going to use mallet flux and contact because that's exactly what this thing is built for. And there's no sponsors in this video, by the way, this is just what I'm using. So you can see here I've loaded up 5 types of pitched percussion, which might seem like kind of like overkill, but it's really all about these bottom 2. These are kind of the body of the sound. The vibraphone and marimba, and then these top 3 are kind of just handling that high-end metallic bell-like quality that we want. So altogether we get this beautiful sound that is definitely much closer to what we're hearing in the song than if we just used like one xylophone. I just want to finish this sound off with a tiny little bit of vibrato. We'll just leave it pretty low. That's only a tiny detail, but it's very important because like I said, they're kind of going for a beautiful but slightly unsettling sound. And the slight bit of detuning we get from the vibrato is only subtle, but it just adds slightly to that unsettling, foreboding kind of feeling so that we know something's coming later on. Their songs don't simply just go from beautiful to heavy. It's always a very calculated kind of process with things like this just subtly foreboding for what's to come later. So it's a tiny detail, but it is important. So the song starts with just that. And then at the end of this bar here, we want to bring in the reggaeton drum beat there because this is Sleep Token and they don't care about rules. So I'm going to layer up 3 U-Jam kits here, starting with Rico, the reggaeton kit, and we just want that kick and this hi-hat. So the kick is just going to repeat like this, 3, 4, and then hi-hats are just going to be straight like that, but let's just have 2 on the end here. So that's the foundation of our drums, but now we want to make it groove, and I'm going to use the pop kit for this clap, this hat, and a little bit of that. So let's just hit the offbeat with this hat. There's like a good offbeat groove in this. And then of course we want that snare rhythm. And then just these little accents. So that's basically our drum beat, but I'm going to take it a tiny bit further using the dope hip hop kit because I just want to layer those snares to make it a little bit punchier. So same rhythm, but we'll just layer these up. Oh yeah. This is what heavy metal is in 2025, guys, and I love it. Like the fact they can think of this stuff is one thing, but to pull it off production-wise, just insane. Okay, so we have our intro there, we have the verse, and it's just these 2 layers, the drums and the xylophone type sound. So this is going to lead us into the first chorus now. And the first thing I want to do is just copy that like xylophone audio and change a couple of notes because the melody just keeps kind of flying around through the whole song, to be honest. So we have this. Just a slight variation. Okay, now for the drums in this part, I want to show you a cool trick because these drums basically continue, but the effects just start building. There's more of an atmosphere around it. So instead of getting really complicated, I'm just going to mute the mallet flux track. So we just get that, and I'm just going to bounce out the audio. We'll just call it caramel loop. So now we just have that on one track, nice and simple. And we can start adding some effects to that to just make it an elevated version of what we had before. And it's going to be all about the delay and reverb here. So I'm going to go for a 16th note delay. And let's just blend this in so that it starts dancing around a little more and feeling a tiny bit more chaotic. And let's just get this more spacious and big sounding with some reverb. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so that starts us off in the chorus, but the real magic in the chorus comes from the reese bass, which in 2025 seems to be the metal scene's favorite synth sound, and I'm very happy about that because I love reese bass. So for this sound, as usual, I'm using Vital. We have some unison detuning, a little bit of glide between notes, and hard low pass filtering, probably the most important part of a reese bass because you don't want anything up front, you want it really in the background, no high end at all. So let's lay this down. Do you see at this point how all these subtle little tricks add up to make it so the song just keeps getting a bit more energetic and unsettled as we go? So we are just so ready for that drop later on. Like from the delay that we introduced here on the drums, to the slight detuning on the reese bass, and even the vibrato right at the beginning. It all gives you that impression that something isn't right and it's building to something, and Sleep Token doesn't do any of that by accident. They're thinking about all of this stuff and they're basically making it make sense so that when that heavy drop comes in later on, you're not like, what? I thought this was a pop song. Like you somehow knew that it was coming. Very impressive songwriting here. Okay, so this song has many different sections. So right here, I want to jump ahead to the breakdown that I thought I got better, but maybe I didn't part. Right here. Because for me, that's like the climax of this whole song. The production, the songwriting here is all just incredible. So let's dive into that part, starting with the drums, which honestly, the drums in this track deserve their own video. They're so unconventional, so rhythmically complex in a way that still works with the song. And right here, instead of just being like a straight breakdown, the drums pretty much just like copy exactly what the guitar does. It's like built completely around the guitar riff. So it's going to be this dun 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 dun. Like snare there where you wouldn't expect it, and it just keeps doing that, following the riff, and then it's dun 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 dun. Like it's kind of simple but complex. You know, drums don't typically do that, but it works just following the riff. So we've got some really quick double kicks here. Just humanize these a bit, and then there's this nice little tom moment. And then here on the second time round, they kind of start like teasing this polyrhythm, like this. But then they break it up and then kind of reintroduce it. Which once we lay down on guitar riff is going to sound beautiful. And honestly, for me, when a drummer gets like this complicated, usually I feel like they're showing off. But in this track, it just works. It sounds so good. Again, it's obvious a lot of thought has been put into these parts. So I'm using the Mixwave Gojira kit here, which sounds awesome. Let's just focus on that snare for a second. So I've already EQ'd the snare, and you can see here I'm really focused on getting that low end body. Big important part of the Sleep Token sound is the boomy snare. And after that, we of course want more reverb, so I'm going to use Aura again. Sleep Token's drums are way more reverby than most metal bands. Everyone else is focused on clean, tight drums. This band just goes massive with it. So we got the same thing with the cymbals. I've got Aura on there for reverb, and then Shimmer as well, the Cubase plugin. just to really give it that massive ethereal vibe. And for the cymbals, I'm really focused on this high mid-range here, which is a very important part of the Sleep Token sound, but I properly broke down the whole reason behind that in my last Sleep Token remake for Granite, so go check that out if you haven't seen it. Short story is the guitars are going to be tuned so low that we kind of need this high mid-range here to compensate for the lack of energy, because the guitar's going to kind of sound like a bass. And speaking of, let's focus on those guitars now. So I'm in drop G sharp tuning. I have some insane tricks to show you for getting the tone, but first let's just lay it down. That's the left, let's get it on the right. Okay, I love this tone, so let me show you what I'm doing here. First off, I'm using Archetype Nolly for that amp, just a nice solid genty tone. And something that's becoming a bit of a theme in these videos is very low gain, which I explained in the other Sleep Token video and the Loathe tone tutorial. But basically, the lower you tune, the lower your gain usually should be, because if you turn the gain up when you're going that low, it's just going to become a mess. It's going to lose all the clarity, and it's just going to sound dull. So we're kind of preserving the clarity by keeping that kind of low. So we start with that amp, but the important thing here is, of course, that it needs to just sound demonically low. But I don't want to just use the transpose here, because that just sounds too low to me and kind of like a bass guitar. So I'm going to use the KHS pitch shifter, which we've got an octave down, and you can see I'm blending in the octave down with the main signal, so we get which to me sounds a lot more like what we're hearing in the track. So that's the main tone, just using a solid metal amp, but then keeping it low again so it works with this lower tuning, and then pitch shifting it down, but blending in that original signal so that we don't just get like a bass guitar and it kind of has that low rumble, but then it's also got the liveliness of the original drop G sharp sound. And I thought Sleep Token was insane for going all the way down to low B in Granite. This is low G sharp, like crazy low for a guitar, and we're about to make it even lower as well, because the main tone is cool, but that one has to be clear, it has to be crisp, it has to sit where we want it in the mix, and it's doing all of that, but it doesn't quite have that low end rumble we need. This really needs to sound like a guitar that came from hell. This is where we can get messy. It doesn't have to sound clear, it doesn't have to sound nice, it just needs to sound evil. So for this one we're using the Nolly amp again, but I've done some things differently, which I'll show you in a sec. But firstly, we can go crazy with the gain on this one. And I'm just going to pitch this one the whole way down, because we don't need to worry about this sounding clear. It just has to sound as low as possible. And then the final key to this sound is, you can see I'm just rolling off all that top end and really just focusing on this low mid-range and low end. So we're just getting that rumbly body in the lows. So that sounds like a total mess on its own, but in the mix, that's going to give the guitars what they need, and it's just going to give you that impression that the tone is so doomy, so impossibly low and evil. I'll show you. Let's mute it, and then I'll bring it in, and you'll hear how the guitars, like, we have the clarity and the tightness that we need in the first one, but then this is just going to introduce all of that rumble and just make the guitars sound huge. Just nasty. And after that, we can still take this guitar sound way further. You know it's time for the bass synths, so let's lay it down, then I'll explain why this is so important for the guitars. Okay, so firstly, the synth sound I've put together in Vital is just a strong, solid bass note, as you can hear. But it's got that big reverb like everything else in the mix here, so that it's got that epicness, so that it fits with everything else. And the reason we need this is because, yes, we've done what we can to make the guitars super tight and clear, but when you go this low, literally the sound wave is such a slow, low note that it's hard to get it to sound tight. Like, it should just be a flubby, loose rumble, but we've done what we can with the guitars to kind of make it so that isn't the case. But the way a synth can hold a solid low end can really complement a guitar and kind of give it that tightness and that body that we might be lacking. So listen to the mix without this, and then I'll bring it in and you'll hear how it really defines that power in the mid-range and low end of the guitars. Honestly, for me, that synth is even more important than the bass guitar, but let's just lay down the bass so that it's in there because it will still fill out the mix and just add a bit more aggression with some distortion. So for this tone, I'm using the JST Hellraiser. Just a nice clanky modern metal sound. Okay, and finally for this section, we just need a big atmospheric synth pad sitting on top of everything else. So I've put together this really dreamy sounding Vital. Again, loads of reverb, loads of delay. Let's lay it down. Okay, and with that, guys, we've covered all the key parts that make up this incredible Sleep Token track. This band never ceases to amaze me with their creativity and just their ability to take completely opposite genres and bring them together in a way that completely makes sense and just takes the genre forward so much. So I hope you got some inspiration out of this one. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And if you want to get the ultimate guide from me on making modern metal, go check out the course because it is by far the deepest dive I've ever done. And if you want to have that confidence to just know that you can take the ideas in your head and turn them into a real song and you know how to make that happen, that's exactly what this course is designed to give you. Everything I've learned on my journey is in there, so go check that out. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far, and I'll see you guys in the next one.